Hello?
Hey, cash is down.
Guns down.
Let's go.
Just got news. It's Friday night.
Hello?
Hey, cash is down.
Guns down.
Let's go.
Just got news. It's Friday night.
Hey, what's up? Hello.
Oh,
You
that
like
was
that?
fancy.
Welcome to Friday Night Moms, to which we are filming on a Saturday morning. We have coffees mine's from a little bodega. Yours is from?
Mine is from the hotel lobby, which was probably overpriced, but whatever.
And they put it in a little cup like a bodega.
It looks the same.
It looks the same.
I
I'm
probably
having a
paid-
coffee. You are having...
I'm having a chai latte.
You paid...
Well, I also got a croissant.
Okay,
so
how
it was
much was it?
$20.
I also got a corn muffin. It was $4.50.
Well, there you go. This is why you live in Harlem and not on the Upper West Side where my hotel was.
Sips tea.
Yeah.
So today, I am Danielle.
I was like, tell the people who you are.
And,
I'm Celia.
and we are
We are
Friday Night Moms.
your Friday Night Moms.
Today we are talking about breastfeeding.
Finally.
Woo, woo,
Because we've
woo.
talked about it in just about every episode,
Yes,
but
'cause
not
it's
dedicated.
Huge.
It's a huge thing.
Huge.
Just like
huge.
your boobs will be when you're breastfeeding.
And then they won't be after you're done breastfeeding. Okay, so jumping into it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about journeys. Let's talk
Yes.
about breastfeeding journeys.
Quickly.
As quick as possible. You know, again, Celia, and if you're new to the podcast, Celia and I had our boys. Originally, they were slated to be 4 days apart. They are 2 weeks apart. So Celia's breastfeeding journey started first. But we had very different breastfeeding journeys. Mine, my son had a tongue tie to which we got released about 4 days after he was born. That definitely caused an issue. If you don't know about tongue ties, very briefly, it's your tongue being connected and restricted. Either it can be your cheek, it can be the roof, the lower half of your mouth, etc., the sides. There's a lot of places that you can have ties. So with that limiting the mobility, in terms of latching, it's a bit harder. So we learned that. We had to go through that. It was just many tears. I can't believe my son's already having surgery. He's only 4 days old. But in hindsight, and I think we've talked about that, I feel like that set me back in certain ways. So I became very engorged very quickly because the release wasn't happening. It was a pandemic, so I couldn't have the immediacy of a lactation specialist coming in because they were all either booked or not doing home visits, and it was virtual. So I definitely had many, many bumps in the road leading up to just getting the hang of it. Getting the hang of it alone is quite hard, but bumps don't help. So once we finally got into the swing of things, I think in terms of my body producing the right amount and finding that balance, that was really hard for me. So some days it'd be so much milk and other days it would be not so much milk. And I would be sad about the days that there wasn't enough milk, but then the days that there was enough milk, I'm taking pictures, I'm feeling good. Also getting stuck on those Instagram ads where it's like, see this deep freezer filled with milk, and then to learn later through our mommy group that's not the norm. That's the other extreme. So there's the extreme of like not being able to produce, and then there's the extreme of overproduction, which is not good either. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that enough. I think moms in general fall into the pitfall. I'm not producing enough or whatever. Or if I'm producing enough, I still think it's not enough. I think from a science standpoint, your body produces what your baby needs. Yeah. I think, I assume that's what the proven deal is, right? Yeah. So getting trapped into that thinking you're not doing enough. And then, drinking enough water, drinking your prenatals, remembering all those things, remembering to nourish your body, because what your body's producing is nourishment. And it will take and deplete from you to help your baby first.
Child.
And you don't realize while your hair is gone, your nails.
Coming for us.
Yeah, like you look pale. Like there's so many other ramifications of not taking care of yourself while you're taking care of your baby.
Yep.
Not shameless plug, but not sponsored. There was, in my journey, I also use supplements. You try and find everything that the teas, the cookies, the lemonades, the whatever.
Yep.
I tried maybe about 3 or 4 different brands. One worked, again, not like not a sponsor or whatever, just sharing my experience. It's called the Nisus. It's called Nisus, Nisus. And it was new to the market. I found about it through a college friend, and it worked for me. It helped me. It wasn't like I had the freezer full, but it gave me enough. Yeah. It was free of all the things I don't want my child to have. And that was helpful. So, a very long story short, our journey together was about 7.5 months. And I think the question often comes is like, how do you know when it's over? I had gone back to work. I started being on set. I was pumping. I was doing all the things, which I think sped up the end of our journey together. But I think a couple days I had forgotten, and it just became so irregular. Like when I was nursing him, when I was pumping, I couldn't keep a schedule, and not much was coming out. And I came home one day, like very sad about it, and went to Nurse Gunner, and he essentially told me it was okay.
Yeah.
I pulled out my breast to nurse him, and he kind of like went to it, and it's like he hesitated. And then instead of nursing and latching, he just like snuggled up. And it was like, I cried about it. And I was like, he told me it was okay. And like, in so many words. And, the next day I tried again, and he did the same thing. And then I let some days pass, and I tried again. He did the same thing. So he kind of let me know it was okay in our journey. We did it. We did it.
Yeah.
And 7.5 months is a long time, especially in hindsight, just thinking of
how much work it is to keep up with all of the things you just named.
Because we traveled.
Yep.
We both traveled. And finding the pods to nurse in, finding the family rooms. I traveled with him and without him.
Yep.
Freezing milk, bringing it back. There's just so many levels to it. And woo,
it's 7.5 months is a long time.
Well, let the people know.
Well,
it's long, but not that long.
My breastfeeding journey,
you doubled it.
I did, and I recommend? Like, I guess if you want to,
let the people know, how long have you been breastfeeding?
So on this trip, Cash turned 14 months while I've been in New York, and I've mostly decided.
Yes.
Hear the backtrack.
Okay.
I've mostly decided that at 14 months, this is it.
Because we did it. Steak and boob.
Because he's eating all the food. So I had Cash first. In the hospital, I had a unplanned C-section, which the jury's out on whether cesarean sections can delay your milk coming in. Oh. Sometimes, some people say it can. Some sources say that it really doesn't. Jury's out.
I did not know this was a thing.
Yeah, it's a
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The jury's out on whether it actually is a thing. It's a point of conversation.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know the conversation was there.
Yes.
Okay.
So I feel like, which is actually probably very normal, that my milk came in really like 3 days later. Oh.
But I think that's the average.
Yes, I think it is
because mine
average.
Came in about that time.
Yeah.
Like I woke up and it was like, whoa.
Yes.
Dolly Parton.
And really, I guess I wish that I had, in the hospital, wish that I had trusted my body a little bit more, and that whatever my body was producing was enough, because an infant, a newborn, needs very little.
I think, isn't it a marble size?
Yeah, like a marble or a cherry size amount to fill their tummy. So they need very little. So the fact that you're not producing the same way you are when you're 3 or 4 months in, like makes sense.
Makes total sense, yeah.
But I did use formula at the hospital, and then by the time, basically like the night I pumped when we got home from the hospital, I had pumped like 4 ounces.
That's so interesting that they offered formula.
Yeah, I mean they had it in the room. They weren't like, use this. It was just like there.
No, but I'm saying I didn't have.
Oh, they didn't offer.
Yeah, because again, it goes back to like all these different experiences. Like they didn't even bring up formula. It kind of was like, this is how you latch.
Yeah.
And they would bring him. I mean, he stayed with us the most of the time, which in hindsight, take this baby out of this room.
See, wasn't even an option in our hospital. It wasn't a question. The baby stayed with you. There was nowhere to take them unless they were
No, they
ill.
had a nursery just next door.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unless
there was
they
a
were
nursery
ill, they were
for.
like,
I mean, that's where they would take him to get like his circumcision.
Yeah.
And any other things that required.
Yeah.
But at one point, I did ask them like, I just needed some extra sleep, and they took him into the other room.
Yeah, I mean that's in hindsight, if there is a nursery, take this baby to it.
No. They only
Like-
came back to be like, did you feed him?
Yeah.
You know, like checking in, making sure we're not sleeping too much,
Yeah.
and not feeding the baby.
Right.
But formula was not an option.
Yeah.
But I guess if they were like, if he's latching,
He's fine.
he's fine.
So I don't think anyone actually was like, here's the formula.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's in the room
Yeah.
as an option. And also, I was trying not to throw Sean under the bus a little bit, but
You don't have to.
he was like, oh,
Oh, okay.
he's been thrown. Here
Here we
comes the
go.
bus. And not for any malicious reason,
Yes.
just was very concerned. Like the thing that immediately struck him and continues to be very top of mind for him is Cash eating. And so he was very much like, they said every 3 hours he should be eating. We got to feed him. It's been 3 hours. And so he became...
That became his obsession.
That was his obsession.
I feel like
And
everyone has a thing.
everyone has a
that
thing.
they connect to.
And so that's why we ended up really using the formula, because it was like the milks I'm pumping in the room, and we can see that not a whole lot is coming out. But in hindsight, it probably was enough.
And I didn't start
Cash.
pumping until I was home.
Oh, I was pumping the next day, which probably again was unnecessary because your
Because it's
body,
just colostrum. It's just like a little bit.
It doesn't matter. But we were giving him what I was pumping too. But
That's
yeah, the things that come to mind when I want to talk about my breastfeeding journey, and because it's the things that I want to tell other people, because we both were very passionate about breastfeeding.
yes.
Like
if it's coming out, I'm gonna do it.
you know what I'm saying? We were like, but I think that people should know, as you just said, and really for me, it's not natural, and it doesn't I mean, it is natural, but it doesn't necessarily come easy simply because it is natural.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's still work. This baby hasn't done
100%.
a thing in the world, so it takes them a second to really figure out how to latch. Right? It takes you've never.
You don't know what a good
What you're
latch is
doing.
versus a bad latch because it's not
Yeah.
based on.
You have no idea.
You don't know until it's bad.
Until it's bad. You have to, it takes work. And what I think was important as we both tell our story is that we had support early.
Yes.
And I think that
that's
is
key.
the key.
That
when
is key.
when I talk to other mothers who maybe say that they tried to breastfeed and it didn't work out, the common thread of what I hear is that they did not have any support. Because left to your own devices,
it's
making
just
a bottle is always
easy.
going to be easier
Yeah.
in the beginning when you don't know what you're doing and you got a crying infant that you don't know what you're doing with. So it's very easy to give in to like, and I don't want to say give in. I want my language around it to be very much like, if you tried and it doesn't work for you, then that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to do it, and because a lack of support is what I'm like, find support.
Yes. And the
early.
support's agreed 100%. In our kind of like, even though we were very hell bent on
Yep.
breastfeeding,
Yeah.
and going back to the journey, you cheerleaded me on. There are many times where I was like, I can't do this, just because of so much like start, stop. He was underweight. It just was like so overwhelming, and when we did have that doctor's appointment, when they did say he's underweight, use formula. You remember I like broke down. I can't believe I'm giving him formula, but had to have these whole like come to Jesus moments. Like, well, we were formula fed babies and we turned out quite
like
okay.
fully formula fed. Right. Like 100%.
So yeah, I do. It is a personal choice.
Yes.
No way is better than the other. I will say that much.
Yes, that's very true.
But yeah, if you decide to breastfeed, know that I think 9 times out of 10, it is not an easy thing to start. Now, when you get into a rhythm of it, you start understanding things.
It becomes a lot easier for
it's
sure.
It's easier. It's one bottle. You're not washing bottles, because I entered that bottle washing journey. Whew.
Yes.
That is a whole nother sterilizing. Like, there's so many levels to that.
So many steps.
So both come with like pitfalls.
Yeah.
You know, one may seem easier, but you're dealing with time in a different way.
Yeah.
But breastfeeding in general, I think if you can, I say try it.
Definitely. I say definitely give it a shot. And my second thing that I like, because we were so passionate, and the thing that I always like to say to other mothers is like, at 3 a.m., I said this before, there's nothing easier than your breasts. To soothe your child, to get them back to sleep. Yeah. You do not have to get up out of your bed and find a bottle and, you know. And there are shortcuts to, you know, certainly doing that, keeping water by the bedside table, all of the things. But, like, there's nothing easier. It makes it easier to leave your home because you don't have to remember. Like, when Cash was first born and I brought him over to visit, you and Amber were like,
where's his stuff?
Why you don't got no stuff? And I was like,
my stuff is...
about knees.
You just had a diaper,
I had a diaper and a burp cloth. Yeah. Like... yeah,
it's very simple.
It's a lot easier to leave the house because... you are
the milk.
You are the thing.
All the food that they need. It's just you. Now, breastfeeding in public, lots of people can feel lots of different ways about this. I was very nipples to the wind. Like, and I was okay with it. My nipples weren't in the wind. I had a cover. Yeah. But I felt no way about
actually doing it.
No, because... what you gonna do?
Who gonna check me, boo?
Who gonna check me? Now I get it. You know, you may be nipples to the wind and you could care less, and this is not a sexualized experience that you are seeing. And if you're turned on by this, that's a whole different podcast and a different episode.
Yes, a different genre.
Yes.
Podcast.
But it felt it felt very natural. A little hectic trying to do the whole situation. But once we were in there... it felt very natural, and when he was done, he was done. And again, not a bottle to wash. You just slip it back up.
Slip it back in.
Take this baby out.
Yes.
Burp and go.
And you're good. And we're good to go. And it is such a lovely bonding time.
It is.
It gets a little less lovely, honestly, as they get older.
They hit 14.
Yeah. It's like the squirm is real. Sometimes he'll take my nipple out of his mouth, and then he's like, poking at it.
Wow.
And it's like...
interactive.
Please don't disrespect my nipple like that, Cash. But yeah, I didn't actually say in my story that I had a hard time in the beginning. The help that I found, well, we both joined a mommy group that my doula had suggested. If you have a doula, she would be an excellent first step when it comes to resources and finding support for breastfeeding. But my doula recommended this mommy group called the Chocolate Milk Cafe, which is a group. They have a mommy group. They have chapters across the country, really, but there was a Harlem chapter that unfortunately we're meeting virtually because of COVID, but normally they meet in person and everyone's breastfeeding, and it's run by a lactation consultant and other people are trained, you know, but it's a lot of peer-to-peer guidance, which was
feels good.
So good. My very first meeting with them, I remember Cash was 9 days old and I log on. I'm in the midst of, my nipples are raw and it's so painful. And the last thing I want to do is stick him back on this nipple. And I remember I was crying, he was crying, but everyone on that call was so patient. They were like,
Oh, yeah.
we want to see, wait till he wakes up, wait till he stops crying. We just want to see your latch and see if there's anything, via
Yeah.
video. And then they even sent one of the ladies over to my house. She came with her mask on, COVID, to like check the latch because I was convinced something was wrong.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and it was just a learning curve.
100%. I think no one... 1 minute the latch is great, the next, and it could be in the same session.
Yes.
So
it goes wrong, and then your nipples are on fire.
Yeah, there's nothing like a raw cracked nipple.
Yeah.
That doesn't heal immediately.
Yeah.
They heal fast, but not as fast as you think.
Yeah.
And
The group was amazing.
The group's amazing.
The group was
Celia
so
put me
helpful.
onto the group.
Yep.
I joined the group. And it although the focus is breastfeeding, women of color breastfeeding, and championing that, it was more, like,
So
my
more.
child's no longer nursing or weaning or whatever. Like, people would be like, oh, get this sippy cup at work or this pediatrician, or
Yes.
because this is the times of COVID, if you have COVID and, no one was giving unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
Everyone was giving, very
Super
heartfelt, helpful tips,
Yeah.
suggestions. And I left the group before you because I stopped nursing, but I still feel like I could probably pop back in and be
you
like, hey, y'all,
could. Yes.
we're doing something else. Because
Yes.
the mommies in the group don't have just newborns.
Right.
There's some mommies who are still in there. Their children are 2-3 years old.
Yes.
Whether they're nursing or whether they're still nursing or not.
Yeah.
But there's also mommies in the group who it's like their second time around and they're back with their next newborn.
Yeah. And it's so great. Like again, these are things that I'm always telling people on Instagram. It goes so much further than breastfeeding in that group. Like we were talking about travel tips and we're getting on airplanes. What should we do? Like make sure you're nursing on takeoff and make sure you're nursing on landing to keep the pressure. And, just like all of these things that sure you could probably find the information on the internet, but there's nothing like that. Like another mother, telling you
100%.
what worked for them. I even, when from that group, we went traveling and I didn't realize that we needed a cover for our Duna.
Yes. Package to get on the plane.
To get on the plane.
Checked,
for it to be plane side checked. And one of the mothers in the group was like, I have it. You can totally use mine. And it
then
saved
I used
the day.
yours
And
for
then,
my next one.
yes. Then I ordered one because okay, thank you, girl. Now I know that I do need this. Yeah. So then I ordered one and you use. So it's like,
there are definitely keys to, even if it's not a lactation group. So although we're talking about breastfeeding, I think having a mommy group that you can depend on is great. And you don't have to be best friends with people. The relationship can serve its purpose in the time that it's there.
Absolutely.
But in that group, I remember talking about our trip and one of the moms was like, actually what you should do is try to avoid carrying as much as you can. So, okay, you're going to see family. See if family can galvanize and have everything you need.
There.
And that was key.
Yeah.
I reached out to my mother-in-law, my mom, and was like, hey, we're coming. Is there any way you can get any of these things through people? Yeah. Girl, Gunna had a full pack and play she found at the Salvation Army for $5.
Yes.
He had the most comfortable bedding situation.
Yes.
We got there. She had at that point he was using, he was so young, but she had the shampoo conditioner. We only traveled with bare, his clothing, she bought the diapers. So those things that you learn that you would normally, I was so overworked,
overwhelmed
and
stressed out. Yeah.
About bringing all the things for him. And she was like, we got it.
We got it.
Everything.
It's just when you don't know, you don't know. And it takes sometimes another mother is just that person to tell you. And so, the group was finding support early.
Is clutch. And
clutch.
And going back to the advice of new moms, especially now as we come out of this latest version of COVID, a mutual friend of ours just had a baby yesterday. And when we spoke, she has a 9-year-old, and so now she's going back. And when she had her 9, there weren't really apps. There were so many things that she didn't have, and so she was like, "Is there any advice you would give me this go around?" And I was like, "Yeah, have your appointment with your lactation woman set up to come to your house."
Early. Yes.
3 days after your baby is born.
And there are free resources. So another person who really broke the ice for me was my WIC here, at least in New York, and I haven't looked at it anywhere else, so I don't know. But if you are in need, you should look it up. WIC had a free lactation consultant that I could see. I had to go to her, but she was at the hospital where I gave birth anyway. And 100% free. This lady took the time. I've pulled out my boob.
Listen, y'all, the boob, sorry, pause
Your
for a
boob is
second. Your boob gonna see. Everybody's gonna see your boobs. The amount of not giving a shit that I had with these breasts.
It doesn't matter. I just want this to happen. I want it to be comfortable.
I went from the most like modest to
and they were just like, here, pull out a boob.
Like this. Here you go. Anywhere, doctors. Let me show you. Can you show me the latch? And they're very like delicate up. You like
here.
This would look like. You see this? I mean,
yes. You see this? It's like
pictures.
It's red right here.
Yeah,
what is this?
Like,
girl,
there's nothing sexual about a boob now.
Nothing sexual about it. Yes, but she really also cracked the code for me. And it didn't cost me a dime. So there are resources out there. It's just you have 9 months to prepare. Ladies, get help lined up early.
Yes, and I think that leads to this success. So if you just want to nurse for 3 months, because they, say that's the best 3 to 4 months, those are like key, crucial.
Yeah. And when the
if you want to do it for 2 weeks, oh my gosh, I can't even with this formula shortage.
But I also want to say that we have some favorite products that helped us during breastfeeding. And although we're not going to run through those products, we will link them. They'll be, if you check our Instagram, we'll have them linked there. If you're watching the video, we'll include links of our favorite breastfeeding help supplements, because I also use a supplement that I enjoy.
The Haka, which is a supplement, but that was good.
I had, towards the end, I got these silicone cups that those. I loved.
I loved my wireless pump.
So
because I was on set and no one knew that I was pumping. I would just go from like regular size boobs to like huge boobs to like regular size.
Yes.
And no one would pay attention to
it. And it's fine. So like we have product recommendations
we'll drop
that we'll drop off. Be sure to check those. But this formula shortage,
I can't even,
is bananas.
I can't. And I'm blessed to have enough people who are like, moms or moms, whatever, just people in my life who are like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Now, gratefully, during this formula shortage, we are off formula.
We're off the formulas.
We're onto milk alternatives and regular food.
Yes.
And we still have a little bit of formula in the house. I think it's nostalgia, but I couldn't imagine. I'm out here trying to find formula for friends, and I'm stressed for their babies. Yeah. So I couldn't imagine.
So although we both breastfed, we did also both use formula. Because pumping sucks. Yeah. It's awful.
You hated it more than I did, I think.
Why do I hate everything more than you? I hated pumping. It was the bane of my day. But you gotta build up your freezer stash if you ever want
power pumping.
Yeah, the power pumping. If you ever want to be away from your baby when you're breastfeeding, you have to pump if you want anyone to be able to feed your baby. So it's like
power pumping.
The pros and cons. So we did both use formula.
Yes.
And yes, I could not imagine
I cannot
not being able to find food for my baby.
And what bothers me, we're trying to keep this, cute and short. But what bothers me is we're talking pro-life, but you are not providing, going back to what's not being provided for families.
Yeah.
Like, run this formula for free.
For free. Because it should be free.
Childcare should be free or as close to free as possible.
Government subsidized without question.
Equal.
Yes, or equal.
Don't have it be like I have to be just because I don't make, 6 figures and it's not 6-figure. Now I just send my child to anywhere and anything could happen.
Yeah.
No, it should bare minimum should be like board certified. All these things.
Yeah.
people who can take care of your child when your child has needs. Like, imagine if your child had special needs.
That's what I was going to say about the formula. Imagine if you had like acid reflux or your child has sensitivities and you have to be on a specific type of formula. Or preemie. It's like there's so many layers to this motherhood thing and feeding babies. And how did we even get here?
And for you to just say, we'll just breastfeed them. That isn't always so suppose you got injured.
Yeah.
Suppose you were that mother who had a terrible C-section and you have to be away from your child. It's not.
Or you have to go back to the hospital for some reason.
Black and
the
white.
Mother is deceased because that could also be a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Or the mother doesn't produce milk.
Enough milk.
Period.
So many reasons why breastfeeding just isn't the answer.
And no.
Have to have formula. And it's bananas that.
I'm gutted.
Yeah.
That's the word my mom uses.
It's very upsetting.
She be using
gutted.
She's gutted, darling.
I'm gutted.
No, but I am gutted by the fact that, like, first of all, the signs are scary because it's like only I think it's 3 is the max. And then you see the sign and then you look and there's none. There's not even one. There's nothing there. When it's Target, nothing there. I've gone to my grocery store. I see the sign. There's nothing there. Or what's there is probably not the one that you want.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Imagine if you had to use a specific, not just like I want to use this one. This is the brand I use, but like this is the only one that doesn't cause my baby to
because now you
holler
and be in pain.
Yeah,
I can't anyway.
So yeah, major takeaways. Find support early.
Key.
Major key. Stick with it if you really want to do it.
And reach out to us. Like, we are happy to be a part of your support network.
Absolutely.
To cheer you on.
We will link Chocolate Milk Cafe. Of course, they have... They're not everywhere, but they are wherever they are. I'm sure they can offer you some help.
I think they're still virtual.
Yeah, I think they are still virtual.
So even if you're not in the area, I'm sure you could jump onto something virtual closer to you.
Yeah, I mean they're not just in Harlem. That was just the Harlem chapter.
No, I'm saying.
Oh, if you're close, you mean to in general. Right,
closer to you in general in a different state. Yeah. It's good. Don't knock the virtual because I did have a virtual lactation person. Because the in-home person couldn't come. And girl,
they will offer
my
support.
Breasts were out.
Girl. We could have so many more stories.
My breasts were out. Total strange woman, never met her before, and breasts were out with a Zoom. She's like, okay, let me see. She had a stuffed animal. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. But yes, moral of the story, as you said, get your support system locked and loaded before your baby
actually comes out. Yes.
And don't be afraid to lean in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yes.
Like, subscribe, share, comment, all of the great things.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.
Let's go.